Well, the Sultan of Sokoto is speaking. The lawyer to the protester is also speaking. Mr. Ebonlu Adegboruwa has said, giving a word to the military, to the security agencies, to the federal government, and he's telling the protesters that the rally or the protest should end today. But in every second that the protest went on and the economy stopped, there is a consequence. Now, action must be taken by the federal government. The protesters have a reason, by the right, under the Constitution, protected by our laws, to go to the street and show their agitation against the action or inaction of government. But then, tonight, I'll first open this program and this bit on the economic implications of the protest, so that everyone that is involved will learn that there are implications for what is going on. I'm being joined by an economist, Mr. Paul Alaje. Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Paul Alaje, for joining us. Thank you so much for having me. What a day is it? I mean, for someone like you, as soon as when people are singing on the street, but you are calculating in Naira, you are calculating the numbers. Can you summarize for us, economically speaking, how much have we gained, how much have we lost?
Well, the gain from protests is for government to hear the cry of the people and for government to know that people can also checkmate their action. But it comes with cost. When people are not able to move, they're not able to do business, like what happened yesterday, it costs, at least the cost we're able to estimate, is an average of about 350 billion naira. And you saw what happened on the exchange. We lost about, the exchange dropped by 0.42. And maybe not just because of protest, but to a large extent, it has its own contribution. But that does not mean protest is right or protest is wrong. I'm not saying for or against whether the protest is right or wrong. But see, when people are not, yes, but when people are not able to move, when trade is not able to happen in a system or in a country such as ours, what we estimated yesterday alone, not even today, yesterday alone was an average of 350 billion naira. That is why it's important for government and protester to come together to have a dialogue regarding, or a negotiation regarding what the future should be. But I can tell you, it impacted our exchange yesterday. It also impacted the overall sector, especially the informal sector in Abuja, in Kano, in Kaduna. Again, it's not that protests happen everywhere, but the fear of protest made a lot of people to close their shop. Many banks were shut, insurance companies were not functioning. So it has its own major effect.
So let's look at the figures, Mr. Alaje. You said 350 billion naira. That is what we have lost daily. So 350 billion times 2 would have lost 700 billion. Now that's nearing a trillion naira.
Yes. If that happens tomorrow,
well, tomorrow is Saturday, yes, we don't go into full-blown economic activities on the weekend, but we may be nearing about a trillion naira loss in the real economy, isn't it? Exactly. The real sector.
Exactly. And this accounts for our GDP. If you look at the value of our GDP, it's estimated to be around $252 billion this year. So if we don't really work on it, even if you say we have 1, 2, 3 or 1 to 2 or 3% GDP growth rate, we might still have more poverty in the economy. So
I mean, I'm going to ask you this question based on what happens when, for example, there is a logistic and operational problem with lifting oil. NNPC or the marketers will tell you, when there is a problem in the country and they are not able to lift oil from Lagos to some part of the country, it takes about 3 days to 1 week to be able to make up.
Yes.
So, and I'm imagining that if we're losing, if the economy is on a standstill for 2 days, for 48 hours, how long could it take for us to be able to, get back on track?
Well, it depends. There are some that will never get back. Lives that are lost will never get back. So with those, there are no recoveries. But some, there are recoveries. For instance, in terms of crude, tankers that are supposed to move from Lagos, perhaps to as close as Ibadan. But if there is a major protest, violent protest, which of course is not what I saw in Lagos, but let's assume there was violent protest, It may stop the availability of crude in Lagos and perhaps the rest of the country. What will that mean? When the protests end, it will take time. It may be a week, it may be 2 weeks, and so on and so forth before it gets there. And you should know that cost of protests all over the world can be divided into 4. The first one is short term. For instance, eventually truck will move and you get to destination before 1 month. And you also have the one that affects perhaps grocery stores that might have been burnt. That may take them medium term. Sometimes it takes 2 years to 5 years before they recover. And in case of government facility that was burnt, for instance, in Kano, it may take long term, around after 5 years, before that kind of factory that we saw in the communication center, I guess, in Kano. I know you interviewed the Minister for Communication yesterday, and he expressed his frustration regarding what happened yesterday. So it may not be what we can solve in the medium, in the short term. It may take a long while, a long term, but the biggest cost of all is what we cannot recover. The lives that were lost. There's nothing we can do about it.
Sadly. And also the money that has been lost cannot be recovered.
Money can be...
you can recover in the business. But the money that is lost, what we cannot sell,
it's gone.
what we cannot trade in globally, what we cannot trade locally, those are gone.
Forever.
The business can recover.
Yes.
But what is lost in the tangible, you may not be able to recover.
But you have the implication on GDP per head. That's a per capita.
So that gap also is there.
It will be there. So if this persists for a long time, it might actually make the economy to shrink. There are other factors making the economy to shrink already. Maybe that is why protesters are even protesting in the first instance. So now that it's obvious that government knew that people, especially young people, are not particularly comfortable with some of the policies of government. It's also important that as young people, we don't overstretch it. And I like the lawyers representing the protester. I've said that, we should put a stop to it today, and I want to lend my voice. Has the message been loud? I think it's loud enough. Is it clear? I think it's very clear. I think it's a time for us to hear that, okay, we have heard you, and I think government should take the charge by calling this protester to order to say, let's talk and let's find a way forward.
For those who are thinking, where are we going to be seeing these losses? Which of the sectors are going to be hit? Mr. Alaje, hit it for us. Aviation, telecoms, factories, warehouses. Am I right?
Yes, you're going to have it in aviation. You're going to have it in multiple chain stores. You saw what happened yesterday. From what I saw on social media, some security agencies has to protect one of the largest chain store in Abuja. And we have seen what happened in other parts of the country. So they are the first attack. Warehouses where you keep food. We saw what happened in Edo State where people said we have found palliative. Now, they are private sector owned. I saw a woman on social media that has nothing to do with government, but her shop, her store was looted. So because those that are protesting have good intention, but they are miscreants who, whether they were agents of state or non-state agents, that have mixed up with the protester, they may look for ways to actually cause more mayhem and more harm to the people than the benefit of those they thought they are even fighting for in the first. And it does not stop there. You have those who are producing mobile phone. You have telco, infraco. If telecom mass is affected, you know what that means. That is everybody in the region will be out of network. What happens to mobile phone generally? So it's going to affect a lot of things. Things people can pick that is handy. You know that if there is a protest, it might affect. But you know, transport system, where if roads are blocked, tire is burnt on the road, people are not able to move. People cannot even go to their businesses, especially in informal sector. They are the one that bears the brunt the most when there is protest because they are not sure. Now, imagine most of the population we have. People live on daily income. So if there is a standstill, if there is riot or there is protest, then it becomes a major challenge for them. So these are costs of protest. So before people are dragging to protest, we need to watch it. And before people take long protest, we also need to, because we need to balance it on the part of government and also on the part of the protester. So we need to balance it. So to a government policy, they should watch. This policy
don't allow it to happen.
Don't allow it to happen. And when it happens, protesters should know
it's a leverage for the people who are protesting.
We don't do it forever. Exactly.
There's a leverage for those who are protesting. The citizen, the workers, whoever that is protesting is a leverage. Protest is a leverage.
It is.
And when that happens, government or anyone who is going to be on the receiving side knows that there will be losses. So this information is for everyone. So that the average Nigerian also will know that the economy that we are saying that is on the edge and the economy that we say is fragile is furthermore being beaten down by the actions that we are taking. So the actions to call for change also has its implication. But let's look at it. Some of the other implications that you have shown us tonight. You said businesses closing down or reducing in operation. You talk about stock returns to drop to 1.4%. That is drastic, isn't it?
Very, very drastic. You saw what the stock market lost 0.42% just yesterday as a result of the protest. Maybe there are other factors, but what we knew yesterday that it was huge, a bearish market for what happened yesterday. So if there are losses, and we know that overall economy, real sector also has its own loss. It's a major loss that we had. So for me, it's a clear call for all stakeholders that please, we don't need to push people beyond measure. And those that are also on the street, it's a call for them perhaps to take, as government said, they want to negotiate, they want to talk. For instance, FCT minister have said, I would like to talk with the protester. And the same, Lagos State, so many states are saying, come, let us talk. My hope is that when this conversation holds, all stakeholders will eventually have take-homes and will not be here again.
You have touched on very critical aspects, and I don't know why my producers are delaying in bringing these figures out. Please help me, we don't have the time. Stocks return dropped to 1.4%. All share index exchange lost 0.42%. These are areas that will give us some concern, and the CBN and other regulators perhaps will be looking at what this will mean when maybe in another 2 or 3 days the economy will get back on its feet. But if you look at some of these issues that you have raised in the economic implications, when the president looks at the briefings that he gets and he looks at the table and holistically, he will perhaps be thinking, we need to urgently take action.
Honestly, and the actions are there. I only hope that those that are supposed to take the action will take it this moment today. Each time we delay in taking this action, we might be looking at those countries that also delayed. For instance, Venezuela delayed in taking this action. We know where they are today. Argentina is still delaying in taking the action. Zimbabwe, for a long time delay. All their currencies, all the 3 country currencies are in total mess. So because stock will be affected, and it's not just now, even the previous protest, stock suffered major setback. Output suffered major setback. If we delay this protest for more than a week, what you are going to see is prices will start going up because supply will be hampered. So it will start going up. As good as protest is for us to allow our leaders here what we do, and I don't think anything is wrong with it, more so that it's enshrined in the Constitution, but I also think that we need to look at the cost component so that when the protest is over, we don't come back to bear most of the losses.
Recovery, that's another point. Yeah.
Yes.
On the short term, medium term, long term, what should we be looking at?
So, for instance, once the protest is over, and I hope it will be very soon, the first thing you see is that businesses will pick up again. Areas that have been shut down, those businesses will come back. In the medium term, you are going to see, for instance, vehicles that have been burnt. The owner of vehicle, it will take them relatively 2 years to 5 years before they can recover. Long-term assets of government that have been destroyed. Major stores that have been destroyed. Things have been affected. You know, it's going to take long time. And there may be no recovery at all for loss of life, just like I mentioned earlier.
How sensitive is the economy to these shocks?
Oh, a major sensitivity to the economy because it has direct impact on revenue. Private sector revenue, majorly government revenue. Imagine what government has lost in the 2 days. Banks are not going to open, even though they are having some operation online, but the physical operation, what requires physical operation, I can tell you that most of them are zero. So it will have impact if you use income approach to calculate our GDP. For what happened yesterday and today, likely is going to be a major loss also.
But the question, there are posers, and very critical questions to ask here. Was the protest necessary? We're looking at it from the economic point of view. What led to the protest? Government policy, subsidy removal, and exchange rate flotation. These are policies of government which has dovetailing effect and a ripple effect on the economy and affected the monies in the pocket of the average citizen, and all the indices of the economy were affected by 2 or 3 major decisions and policy of government. These are posers. Mr. Alaje, can you please just
the impact, explain? Sachet of pure water, as at May, 10 naira. Today, 30 naira. Soft drink, 200 naira. As at May last year, this year, 350 to 400. You see, cost of air tickets last year, around May, June, it was 97 naira. Today, 150 if you are flying economy. By road, if you travel by road, I'm not talking Lagos to Abuja, for instance, it was 18,000. Today, 36,000. If you want to buy a bag of rice, if you bought a bag of rice last year, that would be around 55,000. Today, 85,000. So people say these have major impact on our pockets. Perhaps that is why protesters are saying it's affecting what we can eat. If you look at how much a module of beans was, from 1,200 or so to about 3,300. Check all the prices; they've all gone up. The one that shocked the most was 50 kg. Sugar. Sugar perhaps was about 38,000. Today it's 81,000 naira. These are basic amenities that we take. If you're in office and you print outside, before, cost of printing was 50 naira. Today, that's black and white. Today, it's about 200 naira to barb your hair. A guy, you want to do haircut from 1,000 to 2,000.
Fashion is expensive now.
It's expensive to
For those of us who now do afro, you know the reason why we keep our hair now.
But that salon, we still collect money from you if you want to have a nice shape. Now, what about a very cheap vehicle, Toyota salon car that's used in Nigeria was 2.5 million. Today, it's about 7 million. The question is, how will people meet up with the basic amenities from the
numbers?
You've not
mentioned one of the most important staple food in Nigeria.
Which is rice.
Rice, yes.
Rice.
But you've not also mentioned bread, which is another.
Oh, yeah, bread. I omitted bread.
Yeah, those people who, I mean, there are some homes that they have to eat bread every day.
Bread was 800 naira. Today is about 2,000 naira for the same loaf. So it has affected everybody. And perhaps that was why the president said when he had the national broadcast that I know that the times are hard and I need you to give me a bit of time. The question many Nigerians may be asking is that, Mr. President, when will the time be due for us to say we have stayed enough?
On a lighter note, right? And this is painful, right? There was a friend yesterday, we were having a conversation about the state of the economy, and he says that when the wife bought tubers of yam, they could only buy 2, which cost about 6,000, a little bit above 6,000 naira. And that means that
the person needs to show us where they bought that, because most places now a tuber is about 6,000.
Yeah, that's
1,500.
So now 6,000 a tuber. I'm talking about a tuber.
Yes,
bought about for about 6,000.
Yes,
slightly over 6,000 naira, one tuber. Now it means that when you slice the tuber, maybe into 6 pieces. So every slice that you take is 1,000 naira. And the man has given an order in the house. Apart from him, the wife, and the 2 children, nobody in the house, the help and any other person must not eat yam. They go and drink gari because he can't afford to feed the rest of the home with yam. And now what happens is that if he takes 2 slices of the yam, the wife takes 2 slices, it's remaining only 2 pieces of 2 slices of yam for the 2 children. So there is a need for us now to think about the kind of food that you want to eat.
Unfortunately, gari is no longer an inferior good. In fact, gari now swears. Not only Ijebu gari that swears, the price of gari swears just the way gari swears. So if you want to hide under gari, the price is also
you have to think twice too.
But that does not mean government has not responded to any of these things that have happened, so that we balance this argument. Government has responded by increasing minimum wage from 30,000 to 70,000. We have also seen introduction of student loan. We have seen introduction of consumer credit loan. We have seen government raise monetary policy rate so that it can combat inflation. Perhaps monetary inflation can go down. Government has increased that from 14% to 26.25%. We have seen government announce zero import on food. We have also seen numero palliative, 20 trucks per state. We have seen government giving money to state governors to say, oh, take money, give it to your citizens. In all of this, we have seen that amount that is shared from 400 billion, it has been humongous increase, large increase among the money that is shared at FAC for both federal, state, and local government. So these are the ways, some of the ways that government has responded. But if you ask me, with all of these responses, are they sufficient? If government has responded in this way, why are young people still on the streets?
That's a big question. And there are those who are asking, maybe there is a gap between what the government, you said that the government has responded. That means that needs to be communicated to the Nigerian people. I'm not sure that Nigerians are insensitive to the point that if they know you are doing something, they will say, I have to go to the street. Yeah, they are feeling the pain, but there's those who say there seems to be a gap in the communication between the government and the Nigerian people. But Mr. Alaje, before I allow you to go, I know you need to catch a fly. What are the solutions? Because we need to fix what is going on in this country. But what must we do now?
We need to start taking some steps. First, we must stop all external loans. We wonder why Nigeria grew from economic quagmire in 1999 to about 2007 up until 2014. Our service was very low. Before the last administration left office, the current Minister of Finance revealed that we spent over 90% of all revenue to service debt. After Naira was devalued, we now spend close to about 50% of revenues to service debt. Do you know that has increased again to about 64%? And it's going to increase if we continue this trajectory back to 90% in the next 2 years. So what should we do? Stop all foreign loan. You know why? Each time we devalue, we are also increasing money that we owe in hard currency. Number two, we need to take bold step of pegging the Naira. I can tell you all economy that left their currency to float against the dollar, they all have their backs on the ground. You can give me one example, and I will give you 2 examples of countries that have their back on the ground. But you see, Japan was faced with the same situation until Japan realized that if we don't peg our currency against the dollar and solve other problems, we will never come out of it. They never did. Germany, after the war, they also floated their currency. They knew they were going to be faced with problems. When the problem was humongous, they had major challenge until they fixed it against the dollar. What happened to Russia? Between the 80s to late 90s, Russian economy also floated their currency as advised under austerity program until Vladimir Putin came to office in 1999 to say no, he stamped his foot on the ground and even reduced taxes. He did not stop there, then he fixed his currency. Even, do you know, Russia is at war now, but the currency has been largely stable and the economy of the people has also been largely stable. So we need to take both steps. 3, we need to also do something about PMS. Look at the protest. What was common in the mouth of many is bring fuel price, and I don't blame them, because if exchange rate is stable, every other thing in the economy is stable. But people are they are not economists. So for me, I think if you have that peg, and if you have what is purchasing power of Naira in the real sense of it, Naira to dollar should not be more than 900 to 1,000 Naira. And that is the actual figure we should be looking at. If it gets devalued further, the truth is the price of PMS will still go up. How do you remove subsidy in a floating regime? All countries that practice it, Argentina practiced it, the peso was rolling, became nothing. Zimbabwe was going to produce $1 million coin in $1 million. Why? Because they were floating and they were removing subsidy at the same time. So for me, we need to do something about those. Most importantly,
how do you remove the price of PMS? Because it's one item on the list, on the charter of the man of the protesters. How do you do that when you have left the product to market forces?
You can't leave it to market forces because we don't have a force to fight the market.
So the government needs to still subsidize.
We are subsidizing.
The government said they're not subsidizing.
We are subsidizing in FX or directly. Those are 2 ways you can subsidize.
Because the rationality is that if market forces are determining, the prices will be jumping up and down like a yo-yo. That is not happening, except the only thing that we are seeing is the cost of local transportation that is affecting it as you move up from Lagos. But the question is that, in truth, you said, if the government has to be truthful, we need to all realize that there's some subsidies that's being paid. But where is the money coming from anyway?
I will tell you, in 1986, we have practiced similar policy. Subsidy were removed from most of our production under structural adjustment program. That policy failed in 1986. We're adopting the same thing, power tariff. We need to even scrap it. How do you produce in an economy that is weak and you're increasing cost of energy? Energy is everything. I'm able to talk to you because I have energy. People are watching us around the world because they have energy. So if truly we want this economy to surge, we need to find alternative revenue.
How do you subsidize energy, Mr. Alaje, when you have sold your power companies?
No, federal government has large percentage in those power companies. They were not 100%.
How would they be viable if you are subsidizing again?
Why did we sell to people who don't have capacity to run them? In the first instance, we sent to cronies and friends. Why do we? Is that privatization? Did we sell the likes of MTN to friends? If they are not viable, why are they running the business? So if the people we sold it to could not bring it out, we simply look for those that can run it. That is business. Business is not pity party.
And the failure of that privatization is the darkness that we see today.
And we will continue to see it until we are able to take the bold step. The way we remove subsidy, we need to review that agreement. To those who can give us power supply. Nigeria are not saying they will not pay if power supply will be constant. For factories, for industries, for informal sector, and for SMEs. But if they are not functioning, that will have to frustration of people that are on the street protesting.
At least that I can remember, from the mid-70s up until now, instability in the power sector has gone down almost 50 years. So if a country has not been able to fix one single problem in 50 years. If President Tinubu fixes power today, it will be a miracle worker, and Nigerians will celebrate him.
For me, President Tinubu, I heard he had about 8-point agenda. Reduce it to 1. Let there be light. The creator, the first thing he did, both in the Bible and the Quran, is power, energy, light. Let there be light. In the books, we call it light. Can we give us light? And if you cannot provide it for the entire nation, can you make it in geopolitical zones? If you cannot do it in geopolitical zone, can you create ops? But before I go, something very important. In all of this, what is driving inflation? People are talking food, but we're not talking about farms. We need to create farm ops, at least 20 per state. All the money that have gone to the governors should be attached to something, not just palliative, because it cannot last. China started out with palliative. Indonesia started out with palliative. They all failed until they understood that we need to support our agro sector on one hand, and on the second hand, industrial sector. Yeah. If we focus on these two and calculate output target for state, for local government, for instance, if you have 20 ops per state, FCT has 20 ops where they are planting things that will naturally grow in the FCT. In Kogi State, things that people eat that will naturally grow. All around the country, what is important that you are going to have increase in supply. When you have supply and demand remains the same, price will come down. Right. And the monetary authority must ensure that there should be no devaluation again. If there is anything, we need to peg Naira against the dollar. We will find out how we're going to get that currency. They are in our they have mineral resources. How much is coming from mineral resources? If we don't look at, we have mineral resources everywhere. If we cannot do it, can we partner with those foreign organizations to give us our currency so that instead of depending on oil, we should? And lastly, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for this. Lastly, what is stolen in crude oil in the Niger Delta? We need to do something very quickly about it. Between 700 to 800 million barrels a day is stolen, according to reporters. Again, 2 million to 2.1 million barrels we should be producing. We are doing around 1.1 to 1.3 on the average, on daily basis. We need to boost that back by telling, I'm happy the head of the military in Nigeria said he was there in person, and I'm only hoping that his presence will lead to output, because his presence matters for us as an economy, for us to see the output. That way, we're going to have more reserve so that Naira can remain between 900 to 1,000. If it is not, I can tell you, the future might not be different from the
Dangote was going to get nothing more than 450 barrels per day.
Which is a good
If we fix the theft, Dangote will have more than sufficient.
If we have sufficient
if Dangote does not get enough, he has to now bring into the country.
If that is pressure on exchanges. Naira in your pocket. People say, leave Dangote, let you do his business. If Dangote does his business by importing, the Naira in your pocket will be weakened. When it's weakened, whatever amount you have will never be enough. So we should know that economy is connected. It is not isolated. If you don't look at it holistically, then you will suffer alone as a person.
Paul Alaje, I wish you the very best. He's the chief economist at SPMG, one of our very good friends right here, giving us perspectives in the implication of the protest to our economy. And if I summarize, and one thing in your conversation today is that there are implications, implications to this protest. But for President Bola Tinubu, he says, Paul Alaje's message to you tonight is, be Mr. Lights. Bring the lights and you'll be a hero forever. Thank you so much, Paul.